Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss. Did Marvel Studios finally fix what was perhaps their greatest mistake since Avengers Endgame? That mistake being Secret Invasion's implication that the Rhodey we had been living with since the airport battle in Captain America Civil War was the Skrull imposter Rava, and fix that with a new deleted scene from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier digital release that just came out that better establishes when Rhodey was Rhodey and when Rhodey was Scrody. And I don't feel any shame over that nickname. Did you see their chins? This Rhodey retcon doesn't just make us feel better about what Marvel has done with James Rhodes from Avengers Endgame to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier in Secret Invasion. It really reassigns the heroism and emotional arc of Rhodey's character throughout all of these titles to a character who could have a role to play in Captain America Brave New World and beyond it in Armor Wars. With just the release of this one scene, both of those titles got a lot more interesting, and I'm going to explain why. So back in July 2023, the finale of Secret Invasion, among several disappointing and confusing turns, included this odd exchange between Martin Freeman's Everett Ross and Don Cheadle's James Rhodes, as both guys woke up from the Skrull confinement in that Skrull base in the abandoned Russian nuclear power plant after Gravik had been defeated.
Colonel Rhodes? How long have you been in here?
So the Rhodey we'd been following throughout the series was actually a Skrull named Rava, who served Gravik and was positioned as an advisor to the US President Ritson, manipulating the president into an international political conflict. Rhodey in this scene never says how long a Skrull had been impersonating him, but the fact that he's wearing a medical gown and that he struggles to walk suggests that the switch happened after 2016's Captain America Civil War. At least that's what a lot of people inferred begrudgingly, especially since on the binge-worthy podcast from the Playlist Podcast Network, Secret Invasion director Ali Salim confirmed that he thought the switch happened at Civil War when Rhodey was in the hospital. But Salim did go on to say, quote, "I don't think it's definitive. I think it's a great opportunity for fans to go back and unpack the Rhodey Skrull of it all, revisiting Rhodey moments in the MCU. I think that's more fun than me saying it's been 10 years or 11. It's more fun to go back and revisit it. If he was a Skrull then, it means that he did not attend Tony Stark's funeral, which I guess could be heartbreaking when you watch that scene." Yeah, dude, not just Tony Stark's funeral. This would be saying that Rhodey's moment with Tony in physical therapy at the end of Civil War, you know, the whole bit with Stan Lee and Tony Stank, and then everything in Infinity War when Rhodey met Thaddeus Ross and was hanging out with Bruce Banner in the compound, and then the Battle of Wakanda, and then when Rhodey survived the snap in Wakanda, and then in Avengers Endgame, Rhodey's moment with Natasha about Clint's whereabouts, Rhodey suggesting to kill Thanos as a baby, and then listing time travel movies, Rhodey and the time heist backhanding Peter Quill, Rhodey when Bruce Banner snapped the stones again, and when Thanos attacked the compound, and then in the Battle of Earth, and then, yes, Rhodey on the dock at Tony Stark's funeral. All of these moments would be a Skrull impersonating him. Now, not to say that all those moments amount to the fullest character arc in the MCU, but Rhodey having to go through physical therapy with his leg braces was certainly a development for Don Cheadle to play, and it feels unfair to the actor's performance to later retcon that sincerity as just deceptive alligator tears. This is why I think most Marvel fans have decided to let go of Secret Invasion as a contributor of any lasting, meaningful legacy to the MCU canon, especially when the Marvels opened in November and Nick Fury made no reference to anything that had happened in Secret Invasion. This despite Disney Plus's MCU Complete Timeline playlist putting Secret Invasion taking place before the Marvels. But this is why we have to come back to Ali Salim saying he thinks the swap happened at Civil War, and his clarification that he doesn't think that would be definitive. Like he's admitting that what he says or what he thinks isn't the final word on the subject. And that brings us to this newest deleted scene from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier that was removed from its first episode titled New World Order that aired 3 years ago in March 2021, now released this week from the series' physical media release. This scene was taken out of the sequence when Sam and Rhodey were visiting the Captain America exhibit in the Smithsonian in the first episode.
Come on, you know armor beats wings, Sam.
Right.
I got lasers, all kind of Stark tech. Yeah, that's it. That's how you do it.
Push.
Exactly.
Is that how you fly?
Exactly.
Speaking of which, look like you're moving around pretty good now.
Oh yeah, that upgraded procedure. Haven't had to wear the hardware for a minute now. Feels a lot better, I'll tell you.
Okay, this moment of Rhodey jogging in place and this vague reference to an upgraded procedure was clearly meant to establish that the turning point of Rhodey's physical recovery occurred right after Endgame. He was wearing the Stark Tech leg braces at Tony's funeral in Endgame, now he is not. He doesn't go into detail on the upgraded procedure, and had this scene been included in the episode in March 2021, I totally would have released the theory video titled Rhodey Mystery Procedure, Wakandan Spinal Surgery or Skrulls? The fact that Sam even asks kind of feels like he's sizing Rhodey up a little. Like he knows something is different about Rhodey here, he just can't put his finger on what. The deleted scene goes on.
Hey, look, man. I know I didn't say it before. I know we talked about it, but...
Sam, don't. Come on. What, I'm gonna be mad at you because you dodged out of the way? To be honest, as bad as you fly, I'm surprised you didn't dip right back into Vision's beam.
Whatever doubts Sam might have had about Rhodey's authenticity here, Rhodey settles with a play-by-play recounting of the final part of the airport battle in Civil War. Steve and Bucky took off in the jet, Rhodey and Tony flew off after them, Sam provided cover to throw Tony and Rhodey off, but then Rhodey radios to Vision to turn Sanders' thruster jetpack wings into gliders, meaning take him out, so that he falls with style. And then Vision beams up toward them, but Sam dodges it with a barrel roll, and then the beam scalds Rhodey's armor to damage the reactor, and, well, you know the rest.
Boom. You looking for this?
Oh, one-shot energy, huh? I think I'll try it. Whoa! So what does one-shot's focus shoe do? So one shot really is all you need. Begin your transformation with one shot energy today by going to oneshotenergy.com/newrockstars for 10% off your order. Rhodey would later undergo an MRI while wearing a hospital gown while Vision stood vigil. And Vision being there for the rest of the film was another reason why a lot of us felt weird that the Skrulls would have been able to get to Rhodey during those events in Civil War. And that Rava would know how to mimic the exact nature of his injury, because injuries are not encoded in our DNA, folks, and that she would be able to keep up that ruse with these leg braces that Tony Stark invented that perfectly responded to Rhodey's gradual repairing of spinal tissue. It would just be a lot for a Skrull to have to think about moment to moment. Like, Rava would have to talk the talk while walking this struggled walk, and that would be some Kaiser Soze level multitasking. Now, Secret Invasion did establish that Skrulls can also take their victims' memories, so that would explain how Skrulls would know about what Rhodey went through in the airport battle. That, plus Scott Lang publishing Look Out for the Little Guy, and after sizing down from Giant Man in desperate need of orange slices, Scott definitely would have had a ground view of what had been happening overhead. Also, we know, like, Peter Parker was recording video of everything that happened in this battle, and then I'm pretty sure Peter Parker has, like, a burner YouTube account where he uploads all of his footage to it and says, like, isn't Spider-Man cool? So I'm just saying, everything that happened in the airport battle is out there. It would be easy enough for anybody to say, hey, I went through all that. It was actually me. It wasn't someone whose identity I stole. So if the Falcon and the Winter Soldier had included this scene, it would have implied that only after Endgame did the Skrulls get to Rhodey, and that everything up to Tony Stark's funeral was still the real James Rhodes. And that would make sense with the studio's overall vision that everything up until Endgame represented the Infinity Saga, and then all the Disney Plus series represented a new era of stories. It would also align with what Secret Invasion told us about Nick Fury's harvest operation with Gravik and the other Skrulls, to search through the rubble of the Battle of Earth where multiple Avengers had spilled their blood, and to collect all those DNA samples, which Fury later contained hidden in this grave storage site in Finland. And you may remember in one of the final scenes of Avengers Endgame when Bruce had re-engineered the quantum tunnel for Steve to take the Infinity Stones back to their points in time. In the background, we saw a helicopter carrying a crate away from the battlefield, and I always wondered if that was Nick Fury and the harvest. It would be around this time when Gravik could have led a side mission to extract and replace James Rhodes. It seems like they came up with this cover story that Rhodey had just undergone an upgraded procedure, and it's because Rava probably knew that she'd never be able to mimic Rhodey's exact nerve injury well enough to correspond to the exact calibrations with Tony Stark's leg brace technology. Rhodey's hospital gown in Secret Invasion could have been explained from the Skrulls luring a post-Endgame Rhodey into this kind of ruse where he thought he was going through a medical procedure with a spinal surgeon. In fact, maybe they posed as Dr. Nicodemus West and Dr. Christine Palmer, because after Dr. Stephen Strange, they are two of the best spinal surgeons in New York. But then at the last second, Rhodey's like, uh-oh, you're Skrulls. I think Marvel Studios chose to release this scene with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier physical media release because they know how confused Secret Invasion left us. And even if this is a deleted scene, and we don't consider deleted scenes canon, this scene nonetheless establishes the studio's intent on when they consider the Skrull switch to have happened with Rhodey. And that answer is after Endgame, before the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which would mean that the Rhodey scenes in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which Don Cheadle hilariously got an Emmy nomination for, let's not forget that that was the performance of a Skrull imposter. And I'm more okay with that than I am with Rhodey in Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame being a Skrull. And now that we know Rhodey was Rhodey in Infinity War, him refusing an order by Thaddeus Ross to arrest Sam Wilson, Natasha Romanoff, Steve Rogers, and Bucky Barnes, and then hanging up on that call would certainly be driving a wedge between Rhodey and Ross, who is now American President, played by Harrison Ford in Captain America Brave New World. While Rhodey's Skrull imposter of Rava was close to President Ross's predecessor, Ritson, the real Rhodey is likely to be completely kept away from this new president's government. He is now a very vulnerable target to a very red Hulk. All of this would shift Rhodey from a government man who often served as a liaison between the Avengers and the Pentagon to a retired Avenger who's out of the loop and might tragically always be dependent on medical technology from a fallen friend. For Rhodey, the armor wars won't be about weaponry. They might be about healthcare and basic dignity. Like we've often seen conflicts between two different versions of Iron Man-esque weaponized suits. That's pretty much the final battle of every Iron Man film. I think this story of armor wars needs to be a debate over whether Stark tech could be expanded as weapons of war, or rather if it should be distributed as humanitarian outreach to allow the sick and vulnerable and infirm to improve the quality of their lives. Like imagine instead of an Iron Man suit, the armored shell that is the focus of this movie is like a wearable portable healing suit that allows people just to go get groceries or drive a car or play with their grandkids, or one that could be like hijacked by Zola and so he can have a body again. Either way, this product could be debated as like a possible consumer product that you could profit from, or just something every citizen of planet Earth should have a right to. Or we could say just Americans, or just NATO countries who would have access to it. This whole idea of technological spending and research being devoted to weaponry or to healthcare is something that I appreciated from the introduction of Tony Stark's half-brother Arno Stark, who spent his life in an iron lung and lived the life that a son of Howard Stark could have led. I just like this idea of armor wars being Rhodey having to deal with the Stark family legacy, whether it's Arno Stark or Pepper Potts or Morgan Stark, as they fight over what the legacy of Stark Industries should be. And I'm ultimately curious to see how Wakanda enters that debate, because I'll bring it up again. If the Wakandans could repair Everett Ross's spine and do magic neural surgery to extract the Mind Stone from Vision's forehead, and still they have not yet offered to heal Rhodey, what the hell, guys? Like, did they notice how Rhodey tricked Bruce Banner into bowing and they thought that was disrespectful and they were like, get this clown off the organ donor list? Either way, thank God that finally we can rest easy knowing that the version of Rhodey in these stories won't have to explain why 50% of his MCU appearances were the actions of a Skrull, and we could just move on. Comment down below with your thoughts on all this. And real quick before we get out of here, Nerd Riot has a special line of Star Wars shirts coming out for May the 4th. We have a ton of awesome custom designs showing off Imperial helmets, Padme, an Ewok's snapping hat, and so much more. Click the link in the description below or head to nerdriot.shop right now to get your May the 4th Star Wars merch today. Follow me at Erik Voss, subscribe to all 3 channels in the New Rockstars network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching, bye.